afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. We've got a show dedicated to tonight's championship fixture between Huddersfield Town and Luton Town at the John Smiths Stadium. I'm your host, Alfie Burns, and joining me is my colleague, Chris Gallagher. Chris, how are you getting on this afternoon?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. And yeah, looking forward to tonight's game. As you said, there's a lot riding on it, both obviously in the playoff hunt, and both will have promotion hopes, which no one probably thought was likely at the start of the season. So they deserve huge credit for being in this position, and it should be a really good and important game.
Yeah, absolutely. The two underdogs really in the championship promotion race at the minute, taking each other on. A big game and plenty to talk about. We're streaming across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this afternoon. So if you're joining us and you want to get in touch and talk about the game, please do. And we'll try and get your comments up on the show. First place to start really is looking at what's gone on over the weekend and what that means for these two heading into the game tonight. Only Forest out of the teams currently sitting in the top 8 of the championship table won at the weekend, which leaves Huddersfield sitting 4th in the table and Luton sitting 5th in the table heading into tonight's game. Chris, that's a big incentive for them, the fact that they can move up into 3rd with a win tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the weekend was a real bonus for both clubs. I think you're looking at this stage of the season, you're always looking at the fixtures to see how your rivals have got on. I think most would have expected Sheffield United to struggle against Bournemouth, but when you had Middlesbrough especially losing at home to Hull, that had got to be something that very few saw coming. So that was a real boost for them. And then likewise, Blackburn probably had a winnable game as well. So you've got to, I think in your head, you probably plan for the worst case scenario, and it didn't happen for Luton or Huddersfield. So yeah, it's as you said, it's a great incentive for both of them, and they know that this is a chance to push up the table and more importantly, probably put a gap to 7th that they probably didn't expect.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny really, and we do often see that sides get nervous and that reflects in results at this time of year. But for 8 teams. Well, not 8 teams, 6 teams to be in action over the weekend in and around Huddersfield and Luton over the weekend, and only one of them picking up maximum points. It's quite remarkable, really, isn't it? When you mention that Middlesbrough on paper had a relatively easy fixture, you'd have expected even Fulham to be taking something off Coventry. It's that sort of silly season now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We do say it quite a lot about the championship that it's unpredictable, but yeah, this weekend has shown that it really is. You think you've got results, as you said. Middlesbrough, to me, that was like a banker. I thought at home to Hull, it was the ideal opportunity for them to bounce back and really show that they are the quality side that many think they are. They failed to do it. Blackburn, they've had a few injuries, but they're slightly easing. They've got Blackpool at home, and they don't take advantage. So yeah, it's one of them where it's tough to make predictions in it. It really is on the day. Anyone can cause trouble to any side. So you've just got to get those wins however they come about, especially at this stage of the season. I don't think anyone really cares how you play. You've just got to get the points that can get you in the playoffs or in the automatic or whatever it is you're going for.
Let's talk about Huddersfield Town then, first of all. It's been a while since they've been in action, really. I think it was... it's over a week ago since the win at Hull, which was obviously vitally important coming out of the March international break, given their form heading into the break. How do you think it's going to affect Carlos Corberan's side then? That I think it's about 9-10 days since the win at Hull.
Yeah, I actually think it's a good thing. I think that Hull game was a really important one for them because it came off back-to-back defeats, and I think maybe even a draw before that was at the West Brom game that felt like a defeat really for them. So I think that Hull game was a real big one mentally for them. They had to get the win. Obviously, the sending off of Eves helped, but even then they still had to grind it out. Really, it was a scrappy goal, but they didn't really care, and that felt like it was quite a pivotal win for them. I think more mentally than physically, they probably needed the next week, 10 days, which they've had to just get themselves ready and focus, view this as a breakdown of a mini season, so to speak. So, yeah, I think the games were coming thick and fast for them, and that Hull one was a significant win, and now they've had the time to reflect on that, but more importantly, look forward to what's ahead, and it gives the manager a chance to focus specifically for this game, which is obviously a really important one because they're up against a side in the mix with them. So, yeah, sometimes you can read too much into whether they needed a break or whether they needed it, but I think it's not going to make all the difference tonight, but I think it will have helped them just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a long time ago since the last fixture. The last fixture at the John Smith Stadium was almost a month ago when they faced Bournemouth before the March international break. That was a 3-0 defeat, and it was a big game at the time for Huddersfield, who were looking to put a little bit of pressure on the Cherries, even in terms of the automatic promotion race. Interestingly, they've not lost back-to-back fixtures in the Championship at home this season. With a record like that at the John Smith Stadium, going to be crucial for their mindset heading into this game against Luton tonight.
Yeah, that's something they've got to keep up. I think, to be fair, it's the same for all the teams in the promotion hunt. Your home form is usually the bedrock for your season, for your promotion push. And yeah, you can't. Obviously, they say you can't afford to lose back to back. They obviously could. They're not out of it if they do lose, but it's not something you want to get into a habit. You've got to make your home ground a fortress. And on the whole, Huddersfield have done that. As you said, that's a record to be proud of, really, in the Championship when you consider the quality that they come up against every week. And we've touched on how it's unpredictable. So to be in that position where you are pretty reliable at home is very good. And it's something they're going to have to do now for the 2 or 3 home games left, and I hope another playoff game at home. So yeah, they've got to carry on now.
Yeah, one bit of bad news for Huddersfield heading into this game is the injury to Matty Pearson, formerly of Luton Town, of course. Corberan revealed heading into the weekend that Pearson will miss tonight with a knee injury, which could potentially end his season. That's a big blow for Corberan and the Terriers, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it is. It's massive, really. Again, it's the added importance of this stage of the season. Managers, I'm sure, will just be having their fingers crossed that every player they've got is fit and available, because you know how important the games are, and you just need your best players to play. And Pearson does fall into that category. There wouldn't have been many who viewed him who thought he would be such an important player after arriving as a free. But you've got to give him so much credit for the way he's played this season. The defensive solidity of Huddersfield has been key to where they are, and he's been central to that. So they do have quality players coming in. The Colwell's a standout player, obviously, and got a bright future. But I think Pearson has been he's been a reliable performer. He's a leader alongside Lees in the defence. So yeah, he's going to be missed, but there's nothing they can do. This is football, isn't it? This is why you have a squad, and now Corberan's got to turn to his alternatives and hope they step up.
Yeah, that was a point that Corberan really wanted to drill home when he was revealing the Pearson injury, that this is football and Huddersfield can't complain about it because it's the same for every team at this stage of the season. Everybody suffers with injuries. The likelihood is that it'll be Colwell and Lees as a centre-back partnership with Ollie Turton at right-back, potentially on the right of a back three if Huddersfield go that way. So a little reshuffle at the back, but nothing major in Pearson's absence. And one boost for Huddersfield, or 2 boosts, is that Danny Ward and Jonathan Hogg are set to be fit. A word on that, Chris, 2 vital players for Town.
Yeah, they're both, again, you talk about their experience, they're reliable, they've been here, they've done it over the years, and they are the figures you want in these games, because we're saying it's an important game, that brings pressure with it, and sometimes the younger players, or maybe some who haven't been involved in these type of games, it can become a bit too much, and it's especially important as the games progress, because obviously Huddersfield are going to hope they're in the playoffs, and they're going to hope they reach a playoff final. So yeah, it's just going to get even bigger. So you want characters like, especially both really, Hogg and Ward. They are the 2 that you can trust, really. Especially Hogg's the captain. Obviously, he's been there, he's done it. He knows what he's doing in the midfield, and Ward's the goal scorer. So it's great news for them, and I'm sure they'll be in the 11 if they're fit tonight.
On to Luton then, who have had a slightly busier schedule than Huddersfield since the March international break, but it's back-to-back draws for Nathan Jones's side. They'll be quite wary of dropping too many points at this stage of the season, given what's on the line, won't they, Chris?
Yeah, I think the Peterborough draw was a bit of a kick in the teeth for them, because Millwall obviously came, and that was a big game, and I think it was a good game, to be fair, where it was like a bit of a ding-dong battle, and they've got the late equaliser, but Peterborough, it was obviously the other way for them, and I think given Peterborough's situation, I think obviously we'll expect them to go down. That is a game you have to view to get 3 points, and I think that would have been Jones will have seen that as 2 points dropped, but again, we've referred back to it a few times now. That's the nature of the Championship, so you just have to dust yourselves down and go again, and they'll see this as a good chance to really put their marker down, because they know that a win tonight impacts their rivals as well. So in many ways, you could say this is the ideal game for them to get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just tonight, is it? They play Huddersfield tonight, and then it's Nottingham Forest on Friday at the start of the Easter weekend for Luton. And it's just a big week for them. Like, as you said there, if Luton can get wins in either of these games, it's taking points off direct rivals in the table. Jones is going to have to be very wary of that at the point where it almost feels like one win is better than 2 draws.
Yeah, you could definitely make a case for that. I think there is a mindset among fans maybe that you go into these games and it just don't lose. But then because it's not just Forest and it's not just Huddersfield in the mix, when you are drawing games, you're obviously dropping 2 points. So that gives the Blackburns and Middlesbroughs a chance to leapfrog you as well. So yeah, I think the way he is as well, I think he'll approach it going for the win, because that's what Luton have been pretty fearless this season, haven't they? So he's not gonna want to change at this stage of the season, considering how well they're doing. They're punching above their weight, so you've got to go with what's got you there, and that is a pretty I wouldn't say all-out attack, but it's they don't really show their opponents too much respect. They go for them, they press high, and it's served them well. So yeah, they'll be trying to keep it up tonight.
Yeah, we're saying that it might be good for both these sides to really go for the win, but traditionally this fixture often ends in a draw. It was 0-0 last time out at Kenilworth Road. We're expecting an equally tight game tonight, really, won't we?
Yeah, I think we mentioned there that they'll obviously both want to win. Obviously, goes without saying, but yeah, I think the table shows as well that they are 2 pretty evenly matched sides. So we shouldn't be surprised if it is another draw, because there's not much between them. There's not much to choose between them, especially in recent form as well. They are where they are. They are where they deserve to be, and there isn't much between them. So it should be I'd expect a close game, and a draw probably wouldn't be the end of the world for either side. It'll give them get them another point closer to the playoffs, and then switch attention to the Easter weekend, which is going to be pivotal as well, that we've touched on there.
Naturally, in any game of football, the head-to-head battles are often crucial, as they will be tonight at Huddersfield. But the 2 players that we want to discuss now is Elijah Adebayo and Danny Ward, the 2 strikers for Luton and Huddersfield, respectively. As you can see there on the right of screen, they're the top scorers for their sides. Adebayo with 16 goals in all competitions this season, 15 in the Championship, and Danny Ward with 13 goals for Huddersfield in a really sort of comeback standout campaign for the striker. Chris, out of these 2 strikers, who do you think's having the better season?
Yeah, that's a really tough one, isn't it? Because you could make a case for both. I think Danny Ward's, it came from nowhere, really. I think it was 1 goal in 19 appearances last season in the league, and to turn that around and hit over double figures, and more importantly, establish himself as the main man really going forward for Huddersfield, is a pretty remarkable turnaround, especially given his age. At 30, many may have written him off and thought he'd be a useful squad player, but as I said, he's become an integral part of the team. And for Adebayo, it's been his rise, really, hasn't it? He's handled the step up from the lower leagues with ease, really. But again, he had a decent end to the season last season, but he's taken it up a level big time this year with his finish and his movement. He's a constant threat with his pace, and given at only 24, you'd think he's got another few levels in him, and it'll be interesting to see if he can make the step up to the Premier League in the future, because you can be pretty sure that top flight sides will be looking at him, because he does have the potential and those qualities that they are looking for in a player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that sort of like leads me into sort of the next part of this. I think that we'll speak about Ward first, because as you mentioned there, it's been a real surprise what he's delivered this season, because last year in the Championship, when Huddersfield were at their best, it was Fraser Campbell leading the line, really, and Josh Koroma obviously finished as their leading goal scorer, and Ward was nowhere near it, really, with his injuries and other people ahead of him in the pecking order. Jordan Rhodes has come into the club as well in the summer, and he's managed to emerge ahead of everybody as Coburn's go-to striker, really. He deserves so much credit for that. Like you say, at a stage of his career where you begin to think that he might have been tailing off, he's produced his best season in years.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, the injuries are important when you look at Ward, because he has had terrible luck at times over the years, and we obviously don't know the psychological effect that can have on a player, but you can't imagine it's easy at all to keep working every day to trying to get back, and then if you have another setback, or if someone else has taken your place, as you touched on with the squad last season, that mentality to go again this season and to make it, he's basically like he's made himself the most important player up front for them. He's scored goals. He's worked hard when he's in the team, and we know his game isn't just about scoring goals. He offers so much more with his work rate, with his willingness to lead press from the front. So he does have a good all-round game, and yeah, he does deserve so much credit for that, and he'll be looking to continue it and to end the season on a high by scoring the goals that take them to the Premier League, which is something that nobody would have thought was possible, both for the club and the player last year.
Yeah, and as for Adebayo, then, I mean, as you touched on, he's come out of the lower leagues and made the step up to the Championship really, really well. Whether he's as much of a surprise as Ward, he's definitely, up for debate, as you mentioned as well. He had a good end to last season, really, and showed flickers of what he can do. But even then, you wouldn't expect a player like that to be sort of sitting where he is in the goal-scoring charts. A lot like where we don't really expect Luton and Huddersfield to be sat in these two positions in the Championship promotion race.
Yeah, and I think this is one where you just have to give credit to the Luton recruitment team, because they've got so much right over the years, haven't they? They're now becoming the club where you look at as an example for what they're doing. They're identifying these gems in the lower leagues. They're picking players who will fit into the ethos that Jones has created in terms of his squad, and that importantly most of them have the potential to improve, and he's proven to be the manager that can take these individuals to another level in terms of their game. And Adebayo is probably the standout example with what he's done this season in terms of his goals, his finishing, and as mentioned, he's another who does bring more to the team in terms of because of the threat he offers with his pace and his movement. So yeah, it's you just got to praise Luton for the work they've done in terms of the recruitment, because it's pretty remarkable, really. They've built this squad, and again, obviously the manager, they've built this squad, and they suit the way he plays, and the results have backed that up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Adebayo or Ward have an impact on tonight's scoreline. Plenty of big players in either side capable of winning the game, but those two definitely the standout. Let's get into some predictions then for the game, Chris. Let's have your score prediction first up, and then we're just going to discuss another couple of little things of the permutations of what the results might do.
Yeah, again, we've mentioned here how they are two evenly matched sides, so I'm not going to be too brave with the prediction, and I'll go for a 1-1 draw. I think there's not a lot between them. I think I'd maybe edge towards Luton, but then you go, they're away from home. So, yeah, I think a 1-1 draw wouldn't be the worst result for anyone. It'll keep them both in the mix, and they'll get ready to go again on the weekend.
Yeah, I'm sort of favouring Huddersfield really heading into tonight. I don't know whether that's just my sort of Yorkshire connections, shining through or not, but I just fancy them to start fast and maybe blow Luton away a little bit in the opening half hour tonight. I fancy a 3-1 win for Huddersfield, which could be a massive result, of course, in terms of how the playoff race is going to go. If there is a result tonight, Chris, and you're obviously predicting, a draw, but if there is a winner tonight, are we sort of looking at that team, whoever it might be, Huddersfield or Luton, to be kind of nailed on for the top six come the end of the season?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't say nailed on, because of you've still got Middlesbrough down there. They're probably the big worry in eighth. But yeah, it's a massive step, particularly for Huddersfield, because they've got that point advantage over Luton. So they'd be on 69 points, wouldn't they? So it would be 6 ahead of Blackburn and 7 ahead of Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough having the game in hand, and probably shouldn't discount Millwall, but I probably will. I think they're going to have to win probably at least 4 of their last 5, so that's a big ask. But yeah, I think if Huddersfield do get the win, this is a real big step for them. And yeah, you'd have to say the same for Luton. So yeah, that is what these games are about, isn't it? We know how much is on the line. We know what it means to the table, and they'll have to go for it, really, because it would be, as you mentioned there, with Luton playing Forest next up, that is probably one on their mind. They know that's another tough game. So it works the other way, doesn't it? If they lose both those games, which could obviously easily happen, you start really worrying going into the last 4. So yeah, there's so much to play for, and it should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads of twists and turns sure to come, especially over the Easter weekend. But for me, I think I'd fear for if there was going to be a loser this evening with what's to come over the Easter weekend, because neither of these two sides has a particularly generous fixture list coming up over Easter. It could be, sort of worrying times for getting into the top six. But as I say, plenty of twists and turns to come for sure. Right, that concludes this afternoon's look at the game tonight between Huddersfield and Luton. I'll be there covering the game for Football League World, so I've got to shoot off and get in the car and battle my way across the motorway to get there for kickoff. But thanks to Chris for joining me and anybody else that's joined us across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this afternoon. Plenty more coming up on Football League World TV over the course of the week, so do tune in and hopefully we'll see you again soon.